Let's turn immediately to the two gentlemen who are in the news right now for a transition that I know people have been talking about is eventually going to be happening, and now it is happening, end of March next year. Doug, I want to start first off with you. Why now? Why the decision that this is the right time to turn over the reins to Robert?
Yeah, well, look, I've been CEO for 20 years now. This is something we've been looking at for quite some time. Robert's been president for 5 years. You're right. This is something we've been working on for quite some time. Frankly, the pandemic delayed it a little bit.
So you probably would have retired maybe a year or two
ago.
Yeah,
most likely. I mean, we wanted to get through the integration of the two airlines. The last thing to do was a labor contract we got done in early 2020, but then the pandemic came. So we had to get through that, of course, and we are. I mean, obviously, we always have time. We always have work to do, and there's a lot of work still to do. But we're on solid financial footing. The recovery's underway. Demand's coming back. So this feels like exactly the right time. We know we have the right person.
COVID impact aside, why do you believe, if you go back and if you look at shares of American right now, down 25% compared to the IPO price, if you went back and invested in Doug Parker back when you took over America West, you'd have less money now than if you had invested in something else. Your investment would have gone down, I don't know, 30%, something like that. COVID impact aside, why is it so hard to convince investors airlines are a solid long-term bet, and this is a place where you can make money?
Yeah, well, we'll get there one day. We've been through some things. Yeah, the day that I was named CEO was September 1st of 2001.
Right, 10 days before 9/11.
So run the same analysis on September 12th of 2001, and I think you'll see the stock's done really well for investors. But there was 9/11. Now there's COVID. There are events like this that our industry gets hurt more than others. What I'm happy about is how we've done through this. Not what I'm happy through how we've done through the entire period, but particularly how we've done since the pandemic. How the team's managed. Our stock's up more than any other airline in so far year to date by a wide margin. And I'm certain as we move forward, we'll continue to see more of that.
Let's talk about moving forward. Robert, you start on March 31st. And look, this is not similar. This is the old Who song. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. You guys have been working hand in hand for a number of years. You've been a big part of setting the pattern in terms of where you guys are going. What do you see for next year once you become CEO in terms of where the business is right now? COVID-19, obviously, I know is a huge wild card, but what do you see?
Well, Phil, this is a fantastic opportunity. I couldn't be more excited to get started. As we look forward, we've done a great job of building American, not just to survive the pandemic, but to thrive once business returns. So our long-term goal is to make American the best airline in the business. And as we look to 2022, it's all about having the most reliable airline possible for customers as they come back, and then returning American to profitability as soon as possible.
At this point, can you predict profitability?
I can't do that. It's going to depend on demand coming back. But what I do see is when demand comes back, American's going to do very well.
Let's talk about corporate travel. You and I were talking before the interview. You've been out talking with a number of the corporate customers. I know you always are, Doug, as well. What are you hearing from companies about the idea of getting more people back on the road? And is there a correlation between companies delaying people coming back into the office as well as saying, as long as we don't have people coming back in the office, maybe we're not quite ready to go out on the road as much?
Right. Anytime there's restrictions to travel, it dampens demand. But what I have seen and what I've talked to a number of corporate CEOs and their buyers is that there is pent-up demand. People want to get back on the road. So when things do open up and when restrictions are pulled down, we anticipate really strong demand.
So the corporate end of this, that's one of the big ones. When does it get back to 2019 levels? Does that happen by the end of 22, 23? What do you think?
I see it in 2022. And the reason is I see a lot of underlying small and medium-sized business demand, that has really continued on through the pandemic. And when corporates return and international comes back, I think we're in good
On the international
position.
side, Doug, what's your sense in terms of, we saw what happened once we opened up to Europeans coming here, and now there are some restrictions, obviously, but it's still open. What are you noticing in terms of that demand? Is it still as strong as it was?
It's not. It was, as Robert noted, it was coming back it was coming very, very nicely, as you know. But anytime these restrictions are put in place, it just has a very suppressing impact on demand. So we've seen, again, it'll change over time. But once these as countries like the UK put in place different sort of testing regimens and quarantining restrictions, if indeed you do test positive, we've seen it drop off. But again, nothing we're concerned about over time, but right now, when you get those things, international demand falls off right away.
Dare I ask about Trans-Pacific, or is it anybody's guess when that's going to return?
Yeah, that'll be a little longer.